We are here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Wednesday, October 2nd here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin and you're watching News Generation. Today we're joined by Park Ki-un.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you. And Walter Lee.
It's lovely to be here.
Lovely to have you. Now both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. So we're gonna go straight into our main discussion of the day. Take a look at the screen to find out more. With populations aging rapidly in many countries, have you ever thought about your future a few decades from now? As the percentage of seniors rises and birth rates fall, many people, including the younger generation, are starting to think more seriously about how to prepare for their later years. Right, so we're discussing this topic because today, October 2nd, is Senior Citizens Day here in Korea. And yesterday, October 1st, was actually the International Day for the Elderly. So I want to ask our panelists, while you're both still young, you're in your 30s, have you ever thought about your life as a senior citizen here in Korea?
Thank you for saying that I'm still young.
You guys are. That's why you're part of News Generation.
Just barely. Anyway, well, going back to your question, one thing for sure is that there will be a lot more seniors in Korea than obviously when I become older. Aging population is one of the key issues here in Korea, along with the world's lowest fertility rate. And there's also the elderly poverty issue and conflict between the younger generations, as Korea as a nation experienced like a rapid economic growth, creating a big gap between like the big gap of different mindsets perhaps towards life and career among the older generations and like our generation. So all these social issues have impacted the livelihoods of the seniors today. And I don't think Korea as a country was actually ready to tackle these type of issues as the main focus for our parents and of course grandparents' generation was just about living hard, a better life, just by working every day, supporting your family, and that was about it. They didn't really think about life after retirement. And the reason why I'm saying all this is because when I see my grandmother, who is like almost 90, and like both retired parents, life seems very slow, somewhat restricted, and very limited. Because I can kind of say this because from my experience of seeing seniors back in Sydney, Sydney, Australia, I still remember a lot of seniors driving, playing gateball, and just even gardening on a daily basis. Even if they were in nursing homes, they actually seem very happy and just enjoying the later part of their lives. And it was a very big difference between the seniors among Koreans and of course seniors back in Australia.
So that's kind of like the life you want, like seniors that you saw in Australia.
Yeah, just socializing, just doing what I enjoyed doing when I was young. So I think it all comes down to also being very wealthy while you're young, saving up a lot of money, but also being very healthy.
Wealthy and healthy.
Talk more about a bit later.
We will. Ki-un just gave us a sneak peek. Now, Walter, I think I already know your answer because we've talked about News Gen. No, we've talked about here on News Gen several times how you would like, what kind of life you're dreaming of in your seniors. But so I want to ask you the same question.
Yes, then I guess this doesn't come to a surprise to you, but maybe a surprise to others that, I do think about my senior life quite often. I would almost say on a daily to almost weekly basis. And I'm debating whether I want to be a senior citizen here in Korea or whether it's the right country for me to retire here. Obviously, I have the option of going back to Australia as well, which is a very good option. But I know that the government here does have certain benefits for senior citizens, but it also lacks a lot of things as well, which I'm very concerned about. The pension here is not going too well. The future is looking a little bleak, as Ki-hun mentioned, about an aging society, low birth
and a
fertility rate, shrinking population. Also, according to the UN report, South Korea is projected to have the highest proportion of elderly people in the world by 2050, which is not too long away. We will both be in our 50s or 60s around that time. It's estimated that 50 years from now, those aged 65 and older will make up 46.4% of the population.
Almost half, right?
Almost half, with people living to 100 years old, which is quite concerning.
Right. So our generation, we've been seeing these concerning figures. We've also seen problems such as senior poverty and the dwindling pension funds that Walter mentioned to longer life expectancies. I think this is some of the reasons why our generation is actually seeing these challenges and feeling these challenges to be more severe. So I want to ask you guys, do you think this is one of the reasons why our generation is becoming more proactive in preparing life after retirement?
Of course, life is very different now compared to our parents and grandparents' generation, like I mentioned just then. And for many men, it was just possible to have a single job and raise a family and own a house without too much financial difficulty. However, it's a very different story now.
Definitely.
It's almost like completely opposite. And like our generation, like I just mentioned, with feeling this firsthand from the pandemic and so on. But going back to your question, I never really thought about preparing life after retirement. I was just fixated on like things I was doing on a daily basis in my 20s. But once I hit my 30s, I kind of realized that I'll be doomed if I don't save up from now.
Saving is indeed important these days.
Yeah, through a lot of experience. And I thought, I have to do something about my future. So I got into investing in stocks. But besides like losing a lot of money, I think that really gave me good experience to how to save up wisely.
Yeah.
It's not about like just winning the lottery. It's just, it takes a lot of time and effort. And it has to be like a long-term goal. And you have to plan it out very well. So I think through these experiences, I have thought more about my retirement plan, and I'm trying my best to save up as much as I can, but at the same time, enjoy life now when I'm still young.
Right, enjoy life now, but also prepare for life after retirement too. Now, I think this younger generation being very active in preparing for their later years, it applies to you, Walter, obviously, right?
Yes, yeah, it kind of does. So I'm trying my best to prepare for the future. However, it's extremely hard, like you mentioned. I mean, the soaring price of the cost of living is just continuously going up. It's difficult to save money and for the future when we need to spend our money now. I mean, I do my best. I put in a lot of money to savings, and I sometimes have to pull it back out because I have to pay for things in the now. So I have a pension fund as well as savings accounts, but I do worry that that's still not enough for me to retire on. So it's a worrying thing that like I said, worry on a daily to weekly basis. So hopefully, that lottery does come around and I do get the winning numbers sometime soon.
Right. So now, except for the lottery, because it's really hard for a lot of people, even some people, to win the lottery in their lives, I want to ask you, Walter, what are some ways that our generation is typically preparing for life after retirement?
Well, there are various ways to do so. So there is an active movement to prepare for the future at the moment, which is in the form of obviously real estate. Now, that's if you can afford real estate in the first place. But yes, this is a prime example of, fractional investment, which allows people to easily earn profit from, the small amounts of money that you can make from real estate if you manage to get an apartment. People are obviously having trouble these days buying an apartment, but if you're able to get one and rent it out, that is obviously a great investment for your future. And I think that that's something that myself and my wife are aiming for, is that we have our own house and that we can also live somewhere else at the same time, because I have a little cottage on the side of the beach side that I'm dreaming up in my retirement, but we'll save that for another time. So unlike previous generations who passively approached insurance, they are securing a solid retirement early through pension management. We are going to go the route, well, some of us are going through the real estate route.
Right, so they're definitely putting emphasis on financial security. Now, but financial security through savings and investments that Walter mentioned won't really mean much if you don't have the energy or health to truly enjoy your life, right, Kyun?
That's exactly right. And we're talking about health as well before the show. I prioritize health over wealth most times. Most times I try. Because, having wealth wouldn't mean so much if you didn't have the health. I've had secondhand experience of people in their 50s who were not able, I mean, people in their 50s, they're not viewed as like old anymore nowadays
right.
compared to the past. They became really, really sick to a point where they weren't able to do the things they enjoyed doing.
Or
back
even
in
work, right?
Exactly, like compared to back when they were in their 40s. And I think just looking at that, they were actually quite rich, they were filthy rich. And just looking at them not being able to do things that they actually enjoyed, it made me think, wow, made me realize I should really take extra care of my health. And I think many youngsters are jumping on this trend by taking more care about their health,
Right.
just taking a lot of supplements.
Working out too.
Working out as well. And like even with working out, they really make it detailed that it suits their actually body type as well. So because of technology as well, obviously. And I think they also train on their mental health as well by doing a lot of yoga, meditation. So I think a lot of youngsters really care more about their well-being, health, and
Right.
of course wealth. Yeah.
Well-being, health, and wealth.
Yes.
These are some of the many ways that our
Keywords.
keywords that our generation is thinking about when preparing for life after retirement. So for more on this topic, we're now going to invite an expert to our talks after a short break. So for our live interview today, we're joined by Teresa Ghilarducci, Professor of Economics and Policy at the New School for Social Research in New York. Welcome, Professor, to the show.
Oh, I'm very glad to be here. It's an honor.
Very glad to have you. It's an honor as well. So first of all, Professor, why do you think the younger generation is becoming more passionate or proactive about preparing for life after retirement?
Well, in Korea, it sounds a lot like American young people. You see the future, and that's called having a low discount rate. With education, with awareness, I heard your panelists talk about their older selves, and that ability to see into the future is a really good start about preparing your younger self for your older self. There's also a sense, a conversation that if you save now, your money will grow. So it seems as though a lot of young people in Korea and America know about the power of compound interest. Because if you put money away now, even if you just sacrifice 5 to 10% of your salary for 40 years, you can supplement that with government pensions, and you probably will be able to replace your income from when you were working. But I heard a vision about wanting a little bit more when you're retired and old, because you're going to need more money to have that kind of engaged life. I heard two things that I call the American disease. One of them is this idea that you can do it all yourself with just proper investments and proper self-control. And there is no country, this is my expertise, from knowing most of the world's pension systems, there is no country where a person can do it on their own. It really takes a collaboration with government, with employers, and with individuals. So we all like to think that we're all powerful, and with just a little bit of planning, and a little bit of self-control, and a little bit of investment advice, that we can prepare for retirement, but it's too big of an issue. And so what I didn't hear is a demand from the government to make sure that there's a base of support in a national Social Security system. I did not hear a demand from our city planners that they build an environment where older people will have decent, engaged community housing to live in, or a built environment that will really be able to welcome an older generation. Because the fact that we're getting older is all good news, but it's not good news if we don't have a society that prepares for it.
You're very right, Professor. What are the biggest differences between how young people today are preparing for their silver years compared to our previous generations?
Oh, the biggest difference is that the previous generations always thought their children would take care of them. Sometimes that was a real expectation, but most of the time it was just a hope. There was also this other idea that we would work longer. Oh, we would all live longer and we'd all be healthier and employers would embrace us and we could all work longer. That didn't work out either. And I think young people realize that the pace of technology and skill demand is going so fast that a 50-year-old just won't be able to compete with a younger, more trained person. And there's also this idea that winning the lottery or getting lucky in love or inheriting money from an uncle you never heard of also is not possible. So I think young people are just wise to the hopes and dreams of the last generation. You'll get lucky in love, you'll get lucky in money, or your children will take care of them. All that is evanescent, is impossible to see. And so they think, well, it's all on my own. But it's not just you. You need your employer and you need your government to be partners in the preparation.
Great answer, Professor. So South Korea is predicted to become a super age society next year, which is where those 65-year-olds or older account for more than 20% of the country's population. From your perspective, what is one thing our generation should focus on when preparing for life after retirement?
Yes, I've been watching Korea very, very closely, as well as Japan, because you're a bellwether for what might happen to other countries that now, like the United States, are depending upon immigration in order to keep our country young and to keep paying into the Social Security system. I think it's really important to realize that you need a productive, fully employed labor force. So the young generation and the old generation have to come together in order to keep your economy strong. But you also need to demand from government social insurance, from the government plans, that they keep those pensions funded. You already heard that you can save for retirement, but if you take money out of your retirement plan, you won't get the power of compound interest. That's the same with the government pension system. So the government really has to be prepared, even though it's around the corner, to spend revenue on pensions for the elder people, but also on infrastructure for an aging society. You also probably will need to have more immigrants to work in care work. This is something that families, adult children, have a really hard time balancing their own young children, their own jobs, and caring for their elders, getting their groceries, helping them with the activities of daily living. That you usually need a migrant labor force for.
Some very great advice. All right, Professor Gilajuchi, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, and have a good day, and I'll have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
You too.
Here in New York. Bye-bye.
Bye. Right, so we also asked our viewers how they're planning for life after their retirement, and here's what 3 of them had to say. So if we look at the comments, 808 Infantry 11X says, been saving for the last 8 years, late start, better late than never. Benny D97 says, if I prepare for my life after retirement, I would do some plans to form a business or maybe travel abroad to explore places. Tree 3609 says, working in big cities, then buying land and building a house in the countryside or a small town, rent it out while I'm still young and able to work. So these are some of the ways our viewers are preparing for life after retirement. Now, ending off, we often hear from those who are older than us that our youth, where we are currently right now, is actually the best time of our lives. But I think that aging well can be just as beautiful and admirable. So last but not least, I want to ask our panelists, what's your ideal picture of your silver years?
Well, I've said it many times on the show before, but I want to be living in a secluded area away from people, which sounds really bad, but I'm picturing a mountain cottage or a cottage by the side of the sea. However, since I'm married, my wife and my daughter probably would not like that because it's in the middle of nowhere and they can't do anything. But I hope my silver years are more about, like Kim Hoon said, like health rather than wealth. I mean, trust me, if you've got money to give me, I'd love that. But obviously, I would rather my health be something that is more valued than the wealth.
Well, hope your dreams do come true,
I
Walter.
hope my dreams come true as well.
Then let's hear from what Kiun is dreaming of.
Yeah, however old I become, I still want to enjoy the things that I enjoy doing now, like playing golf, even cooking, and just having a few drinks with really close friends. Like I said, this would only be possible by taking better care of myself, my well-being, especially when I'm more capable right now. I hate to admit, my body feels very different to when I was in my 20s. Now that I hit my 30s, everything just slows down, and just like a car, aging. But I think, the one upside to getting older is that you gain a lot of experience in life, and I feel less anxious about my future, and I've become more patient with a lot of things that used to really stress me out. So I think my ideal picture of my silver years would be to become a really cool old man, not a man actually, old senior, wise senior, like who can mingle with anyone, like different ages.
Even with the new generation too.
Even the new generation and like different genders, individuals, and just give them like essential life lessons to young people who only seek advice from me. So I think, that's kind of my ideal picture when I get much older.
I see. Well, I hope both of your silver years and that of our viewers are golden years. Yay!
You too.
You
Thank
too,
you.
of course.
Thank you.
You'll age as well.
You'll get old one day.
Of course, everybody gets old. That's very natural. All right, that's all from us today. But NewsGen will be back Friday at 9:30 a.m. Korea time. We're taking a day off tomorrow as it's National Foundation Day here in Korea, a national holiday. Special thanks today to Park Hyun.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And Walter Lee.
I'll see you next time.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching, and see you on Friday. We are
News Generation.